I am so sorry. How could you?
Welcome to Grace Mitchell Stories, where every tale reminds us of the power of truth, kindness, and love. Today's story is about a wealthy CEO who decided to test his fiancée in disguise. But what happened left him in tears. The skyline of Manhattan glowed golden as the sun set behind the glass towers. And inside the penthouse office of Sterling Enterprises sat one of the most powerful men in the city, Alexander Sterling. At 38, Alexander was a man who seemed to have everything: wealth, respect, a multi-million-dollar empire, and a reputation for brilliance. But behind his steel gray eyes and tailored suits was a man scarred by betrayal. Years earlier, he had been engaged to a woman he believed loved him for who he was. But when his company faced a temporary downturn, she had abandoned him overnight, leaving him to realize that her heart was tied only to his bank account. Since then, Alexander had grown cautious, almost paranoid, about trust. He told himself he would never again fall for someone who valued his wealth more than his soul. But life had a way of surprising him. Her name was Isabella Hart. She was 29, graceful, with warm brown eyes and a smile that disarmed even the coldest hearts. She was a schoolteacher, passionate about helping underprivileged children. And Alexander had met her at a charity gala 2 years earlier. Unlike the other women in glittering gowns who lingered near him for attention, Isabella had barely noticed him. She was too busy helping the staff carry trays of food and speaking with donors about new books for children. That humility had caught his attention. Slowly, cautiously, Alexander pursued her. Dates turned into long conversations, conversations into trust, and trust into love. Within a year, he proposed. But as the wedding approached, an old fear gnawed at him. Was Isabella truly different? Did she love him as Alexander, the man, or as Alexander Sterling, the billionaire? His closest confidant, Richard, his childhood friend and now his head of security, warned him gently. "You can't test love, Alex. Trust is the only test that matters." But Alexander shook his head. "I can't risk another betrayal. Richard, if she's not who I think she is, I need to know before I marry her." And so, a plan was born. One crisp autumn morning, Alexander disappeared. He told Isabella he was traveling abroad for business, leaving her in the care of his staff. But in truth, he had taken on a disguise: shabby clothes, a scruffy beard, and the name Ethan. He had arranged with his staff to temporarily hire him as a janitor in his own mansion. The disguise was impeccable. Even his closest employees would not recognize him without a second look. The first time Isabella saw Ethan, she was walking into the garden with a book in her hands. She smiled politely at the man pushing a broom by the steps, not realizing it was her. "Good morning," she said kindly. Ethan mumbled a reply, keeping his head low. Over the days that followed, he watched. Isabella never treated him with disdain. Instead, she greeted him warmly, asked how he was, and once even brought him a cup of tea when she saw him working in the cold. She asked questions about his life, his family, and his dreams. And though Alexander invented humble stories of poverty and struggle, Isabella listened with genuine compassion, her eyes never betraying pity, only respect. One evening, as Alexander scrubbed the marble floor near the grand staircase, Isabella sat down nearby with her knitting. "Ethan," she said softly, "why do you look so sad?" He hesitated. "Life hasn't been easy." She placed her knitting aside. "I understand, but don't let anyone tell you your worth is measured by your job or your clothes. You have dignity, and that's something no one can take." Alexander felt his throat tighten. No one had ever spoken to him like that, not even when he was wealthy, not even when he was at his lowest. He excused himself quickly, retreating to his room to wipe tears he hadn't expected. The days stretched into weeks, and Alexander's heart swayed between relief and guilt. Relief that Isabella was proving her kindness, guilt that he was deceiving her. He watched her interact with staff, never once speaking down to them. When the chauffeur sprained his ankle, Isabella personally drove him to the hospital. When the cook dropped a tray, she bent to help pick it up. One evening, the real test came. Isabella was in the sitting room with her friends, 2 women from wealthy families. They whispered, giggled, and eyed Ethan as he brought in refreshments. One of them scoffed, honestly. "Bella, doesn't it bother you to live with so many servants?" Isabella's eyes flashed. "They're not servants, they're people. And without them, this home wouldn't run. If anything, they deserve more respect than most." Her friends laughed nervously, but Isabella didn't waver. She excused herself, and later, as Alexander was clearing the cups, she whispered, "Don't mind them, Ethan. Some people only see status, but to me, character is everything. That night, Alexander lay awake, his disguise heavy on his soul. He had wanted proof. Now he had it, but could he forgive himself for doubting her? The moment of truth came one rainy afternoon. Isabella was walking through the foyer when Ethan collapsed, clutching his side. Alexander had staged the faint, wanting to see if she would help a poor janitor in distress or call for someone else. Without hesitation, Isabella dropped to her knees beside him. "Ethan, stay with me," she shouted for help, cradling his head in her lap. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "You'll be okay. Just breathe. I'm here." Her tears fell freely, not because he was a CEO or a billionaire, but because she thought a simple worker was in pain. Alexander could no longer bear it. He sat up, ripping off the false beard. Isabella gasped, her eyes wide. "Alex," she whispered, stunned. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "It's me. Isabella, I'm sorry. I tested you. I was afraid that you loved me for my wealth, not for who I am. But you've shown me more than I ever deserved. You've shown me love that is pure, compassion that is real. I'm the one who failed, not you." Isabella stared at him, her heart pounding. For a moment she was silent. Then she spoke, her voice shaking. "You tested me. You lied to me all these weeks." Alexander bowed his head. "Yes, and I regret it deeply. But it's because I've been hurt before. I needed to be sure. I see now that I should have trusted you." Tears filled Isabella's eyes. "Alex, trust is the foundation of love. Without it, what do we have?" He reached for her hand, desperate. "We have the truth now. And I promise you, I will never doubt you again." Silence lingered, broken only by the rain tapping against the windows. At last, Isabella touched his cheek gently. "I love you, Alex. Not the CEO, not the billionaire. Just you. But don't you ever test my heart like that again." He nodded fervently, overcome with emotion. "Never, you have my word." They embraced, both weeping, one from guilt, the other from relief. The wedding day came quickly, yet it felt different now. It wasn't about the grandeur of the cathedral or the diamonds in Isabella's hair that captured attention. It was the way she looked at Alexander, and the way he looked at her. Two souls who had walked through doubt and pain, now standing firm on trust and love. Guests whispered about the glow between them, how it seemed stronger than anything wealth could buy. And as they exchanged vows, Alexander whispered words only she could hear. "You were my greatest test, Isabella. And you passed. Not because of what you did, but because of who you are." Her eyes filled with tears, but her smile shone brighter than any jewel. Later that evening, as music filled the ballroom, Richard clapped Alexander on the shoulder. "So, you found your answer?" Alexander looked across the room at Isabella, laughing with children who had been invited from her school. His eyes softened. "Yes, I tested her heart and found my own healing in the process." Richard grinned. "Then maybe it's time you stop testing and start trusting." For the first time in years, Alexander allowed himself to truly believe in love again. In that moment, he realized wealth could build empires, but only love could build a life worth living. So remember this. True love doesn't need disguises. It only needs honesty, trust, and the courage to see beyond appearances. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Grace Mitchell Stories, where tales of love, courage, and hope come alive every week.